Most parents don't realize they're teaching their toddler to fear emotions. There are no harsh words, no yelling, no punishment. The teaching happens silently, through patterns so subtle that loving, gentle parents often don't notice they're doing it. But the toddler's brain notices. And over time, these quiet patterns can create a deep-seated belief that certain feelings are dangerous, that emotional intensity threatens connection, and that parts of themselves are not safe to show. If you consider yourself a calm and emotionally aware parent, but you've noticed your child becoming more anxious, more controlled, or strangely disconnected from their feelings, this video will help you understand what might be happening beneath the surface. This is not about blaming you. This is about bringing awareness to patterns that happen in the most loving homes, often by parents who are trying their hardest to raise emotionally healthy children. These patterns are unconscious. They're learned from our own childhoods or absorbed from cultural messages about emotions. And because they happen without words, without obvious rejection, they're easy to miss. But the developing brain is extraordinarily sensitive to emotional shifts in connection, and understanding what your toddler's nervous system is learning during big feelings allows you to respond in ways that build genuine emotional safety, rather than accidentally teaching fear. The reason these early years are so critical for this particular learning is because this is when children are forming their foundational understanding of what emotions mean about them, about relationships, and about safety. Between birth and age 3, your toddler's brain is building the basic framework that will determine whether they experience emotions as safe parts of being human or as threats to connection and belonging. This learning doesn't happen through what we say about feelings. It happens through what our nervous system does when our child's feelings show up. Research in developmental neuroscience shows that toddlers are constantly reading their caregiver's emotional availability, especially during moments of distress. They're watching whether connection stays open or closes when they express certain emotions. They're learning whether all parts of them are acceptable, or whether some feelings make the safe person pull away. This happens at the level of the nervous system, through subtle shifts in tone, facial expression, body language, and energetic presence that the child registers unconsciously. These microsignals tell them whether their emotional experience strengthens connection or threatens it. This is why even gentle, loving parents can accidentally teach children to fear emotions. It's not about what you say, it's about whether your nervous system stays open and connected when your child's emotions become intense, or whether there's a subtle withdrawal, a tightening, a pulling back that the child's developing brain interprets as, "This feeling makes me lose connection." That interpretation, repeated hundreds of times during these formative years, becomes the foundation for how they relate to their emotional life for decades to come. The first subtle pattern that teaches emotional fear happens through what we might call energetic withdrawal. This looks like the parent staying physically present during a toddler's big emotion, but becoming emotionally distant. The body is nearby, but the warmth disappears. The face becomes neutral or slightly tight. The voice stays calm but loses its softness. The parent isn't leaving, they're not being harsh, but the emotional connection that was there moments ago has quietly closed. Parents do this unconsciously because they're trying to stay regulated themselves. They think that maintaining emotional distance will help them stay calm, and that their calm will help the child. They've learned that engaging emotionally with distress might escalate it. They believe they're modeling emotional control by not getting pulled into the intensity. But neuroscience shows that toddlers don't experience this as the parent staying calm. They experience it as the parent leaving emotionally even though they're still physically there. The child's nervous system is reaching for connection during overwhelm, and what it finds is a subtle but palpable withdrawal. Developmental psychology finds that this pattern teaches children that their big emotions cause disconnection. The brain learns that when I feel intensely, I lose access to my safe person. The feeling itself becomes associated with emotional abandonment, even if no one physically left. Over time, this creates a fear of emotional intensity. The child learns to suppress, control, or hide big feelings because those feelings have been paired again and again with the experience of connection closing. They don't become more emotionally regulated, they become more emotionally controlled, which looks similar on the surface but comes from fear rather than capacity. The long-term effect is an individual who experiences their own emotions as dangerous threats to relationships. They may become hyper-controlled, never allowing themselves to feel strongly. They may struggle with emotional intimacy because vulnerability feels like it will cause others to withdraw. They learned early that emotional intensity costs them connection, so they protect connection by suppressing emotion. What to do instead is maintain warm, energetic connection even during emotional intensity. When your toddler is having big feelings, your body stays present and your energy stays warm. Your face stays soft. Your voice maintains tenderness even while staying calm. You might move closer rather than maintaining distance. You're showing them through your nervous system that connection doesn't close when emotions get big, that they can feel intensely and still have access to you. This teaches them that emotions are safe because they don't threaten the relationship. This is what builds genuine emotional security. The second pattern appears in how parents respond to certain emotions differently than others. Most loving parents stay connected when their toddler is sad or scared, but when the child expresses anger, frustration, or defiance, there's often a subtle shift. The parent's warmth decreases, their patience thins, their body language becomes more rigid. They might stay present, but the quality of that presence changes. They're still gentle, but there's an underlying tension, a wish for this particular emotion to stop. Parents do this because anger and defiance feel more challenging, more personal, more like something that needs to be corrected. Sadness feels like something to comfort. Anger feels like something to manage or redirect. Cultural messages teach us that anger is dangerous, especially in children, and that allowing it might create behavioral problems. But research in emotional development shows that children are extraordinarily attuned to these subtle differences in how their emotions are received. When sadness brings warmth and closeness, but anger brings tension and distance, the child's brain learns that some feelings are acceptable and some are not. They learn that they can be loved when they're vulnerable, but not when they're angry. That certain parts of their emotional experience threaten their security. Neuroscience finds that this selective emotional acceptance creates what's called emotional splitting. The child begins to suppress or shame the emotions that brought disconnection while overexpressing the emotions that maintained warmth. They don't develop integrated emotional awareness. They develop a fragmented relationship with their feelings, where some are safe and some are dangerous. The hidden long-term effect is difficulty with anger, boundaries, and authentic self-expression. These individuals often struggle to access healthy anger, to set boundaries, to know what they want or need. They learned that those assertive, self-protective emotions cost them love, so they buried them. They may become people pleasers, unable to tolerate conflict, or they may swing to the opposite extreme and express anger explosively because they never learned it could be held safely in relationship. What to do instead is maintain the same warm presence across all emotions. When your toddler is angry, your nervous system stays just as open as when they're sad. You might need to set boundaries around behavior, but your emotional warmth doesn't decrease. You can say something like, "You're really angry right now," with the same tender tone you'd use for you're feeling sad. You're teaching them that all their emotions are acceptable, that anger doesn't make them less lovable, that they can feel the full range of human experience without losing connection. This builds integrated emotional health. The third subtle pattern shows up in how parents manage their own discomfort with their child's emotions. When a toddler has big feelings, the parent experiences their own discomfort, anxiety, or distress. Unconsciously, they begin doing small things to make the emotion end more quickly. They might subtly rush the child toward calm, use a slightly urgent tone, offer solutions before the feeling has been felt. Their body language communicates, "Let's get through this," rather than "I can be with you in this." Parents do this because witnessing their child's distress activates their own nervous system. It's deeply uncomfortable to see your child in pain. Every instinct says to make it stop. They think that helping the emotion end quickly is protecting the child from suffering. They believe they're being helpful by moving things along. But developmental psychology shows that this subtle hurrying teaches children that their emotions make the parent uncomfortable, which means the emotions themselves must be problematic. The child's brain learns that these feelings are burdens, that they should be gotten through as quickly as possible, that their emotional experience causes distress to others. The feeling becomes something shameful and inconvenient rather than something natural and acceptable. Neuroscience finds that emotional resilience develops specifically through the experience of having a feeling fully while someone calm stays present without needing it to end. When we subtly communicate through our urgency that we need the feeling to stop, we prevent the child from learning that emotions have a natural lifespan and that they can tolerate them. Instead, they learn that emotions are problems that need urgent solving. The long-term effect is chronic emotional discomfort and difficulty tolerating their own feelings. These individuals experience any negative emotion as something wrong that must be immediately fixed or escaped. They never learn that feelings can simply exist, be acknowledged, and naturally resolve. They may develop significant anxiety, depression, or compulsive behaviors as ways to avoid emotional discomfort they were taught to fear. What to do instead is settle your own nervous system first and communicate through your presence that you have all the time in the world for this feeling. When your toddler is upset, you take a breath. You soften your body. You consciously slow down. You're showing them that there's no emergency here, that feelings can take the time they need, that you're not uncomfortable being with them in this. Your calm, unhurried presence teaches them that emotions are safe, natural, and don't require urgent intervention. This is what builds genuine emotional tolerance. The fourth pattern is perhaps the most subtle and happens in families that pride themselves on emotional awareness. It shows up as overprocessing emotions with the child during distress. The parent stays connected, which is good, but they talk extensively about the feeling, explain it, analyze it, try to help the child understand it cognitively, all while the emotion is still happening. There's warmth and presence, but there's also an underlying message that the emotion needs to be understood and managed rather than simply felt. Parents do this because they want to teach emotional literacy. They think that helping their child name and understand feelings is building emotional intelligence. They're trying to give their child tools. It feels like emotionally sophisticated parenting. But research in developmental neuroscience shows that toddlers process emotions primarily through the limbic system and nervous system, not through cognition. When we try to cognitively process an emotion that's still active in the body, we're actually asking the child to split their attention between feeling and thinking, which prevents them from fully experiencing the emotion. The implicit message is that feelings need to be immediately understood and managed, that simply having an emotion isn't enough, that the raw experience itself is insufficient. Neuroscience finds that this creates a pattern where children become disconnected from their embodied emotional experience. They learn to intellectualize feelings rather than feel them. They can talk about emotions but struggle to actually be with them in the body. They develop what looks like emotional intelligence but is actually emotional avoidance through intellectualization. The hidden long-term effect is disconnection from authentic emotional experience and difficulty with emotional intimacy. These individuals can analyze feelings endlessly but struggle to simply feel and express them. They were taught that emotions need to be understood and explained rather than felt and released. They may become emotionally articulate but emotionally unavailable because they never learned to trust the raw experience of feeling itself. What to do instead is offer quiet presence during the emotion and save any processing for after it's passed. When your toddler is having big feelings, you stay close with warm, calm energy, but you don't talk much. Maybe you say, "I'm here," or "I see you're upset," but you resist the urge to explain or teach in that moment. You're simply with them while they feel. After they've calmed, after the emotion has completed its cycle, then you might talk briefly about what happened if it seems helpful. But during the feeling, your job is just to be present. This teaches them that emotions are safe to feel in the body, that the experience itself is complete and valid, and that they don't need to immediately understand or explain what they're feeling. This builds genuine emotional embodiment and presence. Here's what actually builds emotional safety in the developing brain. It's not protecting children from big feelings or quickly moving them through emotions. It's not perfectly explaining feelings or managing them skillfully. It's staying emotionally connected and warm during emotional intensity. It's showing them through your nervous system that no emotion they have will cause you to withdraw, that connection remains open across all feeling states, that they are safe to experience the full range of their emotional life without losing access to you. This means examining your own subtle responses during your child's big emotions. Does your warmth stay consistent, or does it shift depending on which emotion they're expressing? Does your body stay open and relaxed, or does tension creep in? Does your face stay soft, or does it tighten? Does your energy communicate, "I can be here with you as long as this takes," or does it subtly communicate, "Let's move through this quickly"? These microsignals are what the child's nervous system reads and learns from. The goal is not perfection. You will sometimes withdraw slightly when emotions get intense. You will have moments where your own discomfort shows. You will sometimes rush toward calm because you're tired or overwhelmed. Every parent does. What matters is the overall pattern. What matters is that more often than not, your child experiences emotional intensity as something that strengthens rather than threatens connection. That they learn their feelings are safe because you stay safely with them. Emotional fear doesn't develop from single moments. It develops from repeated patterns where the child's nervous system learns that certain feelings cost them connection, warmth, or safety. Even gentle, loving parents can accidentally create these patterns through subtle withdrawal, selective acceptance, discomfort-driven urgency, or overprocessing.
None of these come from bad intentions. They come from our own learning, our own nervous system patterns, our own discomfort with intensity. But awareness allows change. When you understand what your child's brain is actually learning during emotional moments, you can begin to notice your own subtle patterns. You can practice staying warm when your instinct is to pull back. You can offer the same tenderness to anger that you offer to sadness. You can slow down when you want to speed up. You can simply be present when you want to explain. These small shifts, repeated over time, teach your child something profound. They teach them that they are safe in their entirety, that all of their feelings are acceptable, that emotional intensity doesn't threaten the relationships that matter most, that they can be fully themselves and remain fully loved. This is not about getting it right every time. This is about understanding what builds emotional safety at the nervous system level and moving toward it more often than not. Your presence during difficulty matters more than your technique. Your warmth during intensity matters more than your words. Your willingness to stay connected when every instinct says to protect yourself matters more than perfect emotional responses. If this helps you see patterns you hadn't noticed before, share it with another parent who might be on the same journey. And stay here for more calm, science-based guidance on raising children who feel genuinely safe with the full range of their emotional experience.